What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Another fun video for you guys. This one, we're looking at a Rakdos Menace list. Menace seems like something I've kind of wanted to play around with in previous sets, but just didn't really have enough support. Well, Ikoria came around and changed all of that. So as far as some of the new cards, we're looking at Labyrinth Raptor. It's for black and red for a 2/2 Menace Nightmare Dinosaur. What an awesome creature type that is. Whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature blocking it, and then you can play red and black to give creatures you control with Menace +1/+0 until end of turn. This is just a pretty amazing card. The other new one we got is Hunted Nightmare, 1 black for a 4/5 with Menace. That's pretty sweet, but of course that's a little bit of downside. Where when it enters the battlefield, target opponent puts a Death Touch creature on a counter on a creature they control. So obviously, with Menace, you're trying to make it so your opponent has to have at least 2 creatures to block it. One of them, of course, will have Death Touch, but if you can keep it so your opponent doesn't have enough creatures to block you, then that's not really a downside at all. And the other new card we got is Sonorous Howlbonder. It's 1 and hybrid black-red for a 2/2 Menace. So a 3-mana 2/2 with Menace isn't great. However, each creature you control with Menace can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So Menace is usually 2 or more, at least 2 creatures. Well, this one says it has to be at least 3. So that's pretty sweet. However, it is very specific to certain situations, so it's not always going to be relevant. And otherwise, just a 3-mana 2/2 with Menace isn't really great, especially if you've drawn into this after like a board clear or something like that. So we're just running just the 2 copies. I think that's kind of the right number. And as far as previous cards that synergize well, I love me some Pestilent Spirit. I don't know if you saw the Mardu list I made. I had a lot of fun with that. Pestilent Spirit is a 3/2 Menace Death Touch for 3. It also says instant and sorcery spells you control have Death Touch. And just a fantastic ability to abuse. And we do have some nice ways of abusing that. Of course, we're running Shock as a 3-of, trying to make some room for additional removal spells. However, Blazing Volley with Pestilent Spirit is pretty amazing, as is Cosmotronic Wave, as these are just one-sided board clears. Of course, Cosmotronic Wave is 4 mana, but it makes it so that your creatures your opponent's side can't even block. So even if they're like a super wide board state and they can block all of your Menace creatures, well, you cast this, even if you don't have Pestilent Spirit out, now your creatures on your opponent's side can't even block, and you can just get in for hopefully lethal at that point. And if, of course, you have a Pestilent Spirit out, everything on your opponent's side is just dead because your sorcery and instant spells have Death Touch. So same thing with Blazing Volley. And then, of course, there are a lot of 1 toughness creatures still running around, so it's not always... so it'll still give you some value, at least. And, of course, you can do this as with your Death Touch, or excuse me, your menacing creatures. So when you're dealing damage and you're pumping up with Labyrinth Raptor, the Blazing Volley can kind of be used for that last point of damage to kill off any creatures on your opponent's side. Let's see, so what else we got here? We got Dreadmalkin is a 1-mana 1/1 Menace. So that's pretty sweet. Probably not going to be using that ability very often, but you can pay 3 to sack another creature to put a couple +1/+1 counters on it, so you make it a 3/3. Running Foulmire Knight as a 3-of, it is a 1/1 Death Touch. And then, of course, you can pay 3 mana instant speed to draw a card and lose a life. So just a little bit of a kind of card advantage and a Death Touch creature at the same time. Seems pretty sweet. And 3 Heartless Act is one of our new removal spells. 2 mana instant speed to destroy a creature with no counters on it, or remove up to 3 counters from target creature. So it's just a fantastic 2 mana removal spell. And, of course, Stormfist Crusader. It's a 2/2 Menace for black and red. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card and loses 1 life. So just kind of love these black or Rakdos abilities where you get this powerful effect, but it kind of hurts you at the same time. But obviously here in our Menace deck, this creature has Menace, and we're just trying to pressure our opponent as much as possible in Rakdos fashion. And Stormfist Crusader is really just kind of the engine that kind of helps us draw into our Pestilent Spirit, our Cosmotronic Wave, and things like that. We just want to close out the game as quickly as possible. We don't care that our opponent is drawing cards as well. And for some additional card advantage, we got a couple light up the stage. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So for the mana base here. Got a Castle Locthwain, a Castle Embereth, 6 Swamp, 6 Mountain, 4 Blood Crypt, and then just the 2 Temple of Malice and 2 Fabled Passage. So just trying to keep it so we can play on curve as much as possible and try to minimize any tapped lands. And sideboard, got a couple Kaya's Ghostform, obviously Stormfist Crusader, Pestilent Spirit. Some of our creatures can really be magnets for removal. So if there's a particular creature that's really helping us get an advantage, we can Kaya's Ghostform for that. Especially it gives at least a little bit of protection from board clears, but mostly from like targeted removal. Then one more Blazing Volley for some additional kind of a one-sided board clear with our Pestilent Spirit. Agonizing Remorse with our for hand disruption. Obviously, Stormfist Crusader, our opponent's going to be drawing a bunch of cards, but if we can just kind of cast this at the right time and get the right spell out of our opponent's hand, that's kind of all we need, because we're just trying to be all-in aggressive. And then 3 Murderous Riders if we need to take a little more controlling approach to deal with bigger creatures or planeswalkers. We can bring in some Murderous Riders. Pharika's Libation is the only way to deal with enchantments, and also for our opponent to sacrifice creatures, things that have hexproof. And Bedevil is kind of a way to deal with artifacts, but also for creatures and planeswalkers as well. And then here's another new card that I kind of want to play around with. It's a Tentative Connection. It's 3 in red to gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap that creature, and it gains haste until end of turn. So at 4 mana, it's pretty bad rate. Obviously, we have Active Treason that only costs 3 mana. However, this costs 3 less if you control a creature with Menace. So basically, it is like you Claim the Firstborn, which costs 1 mana, except Claim the Firstborn only targets creatures with mana 3 or less, I believe. Whereas this, basically, a 1 mana for 1 red, we get to target any creature on our opponent's side. So this is going to come in against the creatures when your opponent has bigger creatures. And you can steal them and attack in with your Menace. And they thought they had enough creatures back to block your Menace creatures. Now they don't, because you just stole one of them and you threw off their math. So yeah, kind of a fun little gotcha card. Where we're at, Menacing Nightmare. All right, let's jump into some best of 3 and see how we do today. Definitely having a lot of fun with the new set. It's kind of cool seeing all the new builds. Of course, there are some familiar decks that are still at the top, but we're not really worried about competitive Magic. We just want to have fun and do crazy, interesting things here. Alright, up against a Cursum. And as always, if there's anything that you guys want to see, let me know. I'm happy to kind of brew around for you guys. Alright, we'll just lead with our Dreadmalkin. Next turn we can Foulmire Knight and light up the stage, hopefully. Attack first, see what our opponent's up to. Light on creatures, so we'll go and play this out. And we'll light up the stage. Hopefully we can find some more action. Ooh, that's kind of a tough call. Teamer. Okay, so they are on creatures, so definitely puts us in the... We want the Pestilent Spirit, honestly. Let's attack first. So they can't block this. They can block here, but Death Touch will kill it. And as I want to play Labyrinth Raptor, I think, with these Blazing Volleys, and they're showing that they're on Mutate. I think we just want the one-sided board clears to ruin their day. Just like that, our opponent's already down to 15, and we've just played a couple 1-1s, so how about that? Does suck losing the Labyrinth Raptor. Definitely want to start playing out the new cards, but I think the board state just kind of dictates these guys, because Shock's not going to cut it with 3 and 4 toughness. Yeah, we're not going to block. We need our Pestilent Spirit. That's pretty good. We've got 5 coming back their way. Single shot will kill this whole stack. A lot of value there. Let's go to them now before they do anything else tricksy. Got these Blazing Volleys to follow up, as long as they don't have a way to deal with our Pestilent Spirit. And they're in Teamer, so it's most likely just going to be like a Brazen Borrower. There are some pretty decent removal spells, so to speak. Like Frogify is a pretty nice aura for 2 mana. Or even Kenrith's Transformation, but that's a lot more dependent. And with all the counters right now, it's probably not a very good removal spell. And I didn't really see a whole lot of play before. If they're all about mutating, they might not have a bunch of... probably just kind of trying to do their own thing and don't have much interaction at all. Which everything I've seen from this current format, you have to be able to interact with your opponent, otherwise they're just going to go off and do crazy things. Obviously our opponent hasn't had any interaction and we're just kind of steamrolling them. Okay, they can destroy an artifact or enchantment, which we have none of. They make a 4/4, so that's cool. And of course they trigger the 2/2 to make a put a counter and gain some life. Go ahead. Death Touch. Looking for 5 more. So now we're up to 7, but now we're representing 8, and we have the next Blazing Volley ready to go. So this is just about over. That's pretty cool though, this Simic Mutate. Definitely do some crazy things. Unfortunately we just have all the interaction. And they're a little bit slow as well, so we've been able to kind of get our board set up. And I'm curious to see if they see how they sideboard, if they have more interaction here with Brazen Borrow and things like that. Growth Spiral. I wonder what they're trying to ramp into. I mean, I guess if you're in Simic, you just play that just because it's a good card, but I'm not really sure I see any synergy here. Cool. One right off of Embereth. Okay, so our opponent's got the mutate thing going on. So if they get counters, then the Heartless Act is pretty medium. Or Blazing Volley was pretty amazing there. Shock doesn't seem like it does a whole lot without Pestilent Spirit. I think this could be fun. Let's try our Tentative Connection here. And we still have room for 3 Murderous Riders. I don't think we need Bedevil or Libation, so yeah, let's try it like that. Feels good to play Rakdos again. For a while it was all about Rakdos Aristocats and things like that, and it was just kind of overplayed and obvious, so I just kind of avoided it. So I definitely want to lead with the Malkin again. Ooh, Crusader, that's pretty sweet. We'll just play the Crusader next turn and get that engine going. They're going to draw a bunch of cards, but they're pretty slow to establish a board state, so I don't think the card advantage does a whole lot of good when we're putting a ton of pressure on them. And they can't block our Menace creatures if they're stacking up a single creature. They're going to gain life with the Symbiote, which is a little bit annoying, but we do have our Pestilent Spirit online again, or we can just Murderous Rider it as well. Good attacks here, so I think we just hold up and hopefully get something to leverage his Pestilent Spirit. Otherwise, might just need to Murderous Rider, and then we can probably drop a Foulmire Knight just for the Death Touch. Bit of a stall right here, but we definitely have some powerful answers, and if we can get them, which we should be able to with the Crusader, then we can definitely close out this game. Unless they do have things like Frogify and whatnot. which would shut down our spirit, but we do still have the targeted removal. Of course, the baby Godzilla here, Polywog Symbiote, makes their nice Rabid Bite. It's kind of a curious. Yeah, I guess if you're mutating into 4/4s, then that makes sense. Yeah, the Polywog makes the everything cheaper. That's the answer. Alright. I can gain life off the symbiote. But I think we just want to deal with this because that's going to make the mutate spells cheaper. Attack for 3. We'll just light up the stage here, try to dig for more lands. Another Pestilent Spirit. Temple of Malice. And another Murderous Rider. Okay. So we can keep the one in our hand and just play the one. It's kind of interesting how the one that's on the adventure is next to the ones we got of light up the stage. So both at 14. This Essence Symbiote, though, can gain him some life back. We do need more black mana, so if we do get an untapped source, I'll probably just play that. They're going to gain a life. Or was it 2 life? Get a 5/5 trample. If I can't block, might as well attack in. Yep, it's pretty good. We do have 2 mana open. There are some protection spells. Oh, just going for the mutate to draw a card. And get in for what, extra point damage. That's pretty good. I have no idea which one is from Light Up the Stage and which one. I think we just want to untap source more than the temple. I think we need black here. I guess we'll. Okay, so I'll give us the options, so that should be the right one. Pretty low on life. I don't think we want to risk another Stormfist Crusader, so we'll just pass a turn. So it's going to ping us down to 4 next turn. We have to get these guys online to have a chance to gain some life. Okay, grow spell. Perfect. That's pretty decent. Alright, so we hold back the Foulmire Knight, attack for 3, Menace. Well, this is we need to get some life back. And I still don't think we want to play the Stormfist, so just hold. Well, we don't have trample here, we should be alright. Pretty cool. Search for a. Okay, that's the other one. Let's do anything else? No. 6/6 with trample. Okay, so we're taking 3 here. We gain 2. We lose 1 more. So we clear the board and attack for 3. We're down to 1 next turn, though. We have answers for any creatures they play, so I think we got this. Unless they can haste something in. I can't think of anything Simic Mutate has that will haste. These Mutate decks look pretty fun. So this is a Sultai spell, but they're still able to play it with its Mutate cost. That's pretty cool. So they're going to mutate onto that. They're going to bounce the... Okay, so we're each going to take 1. We just recast... well, they don't even have 2 creatures up to block, so yeah, this is just game over. As these have lethal and they're at 3, but yeah, we'll play it out. And Blazing Volley just to let them know we never didn't have it. Yeah, it's a pretty close game. Yeah, these Simic Mutate decks look pretty fun too. Yeah, obviously a lot of other people have been excited to brew around Rakdos Menace. I've been purposely avoiding those lists because I want to come up with my own. I love me some Pestilent Spirit, so I kind of try to focus on that a little bit. I mean, just keeping your opponent's board clear as much as possible so that they basically can't block your creatures because of Menace is pretty sweet and powerful effect. So yeah, this is how I brew it. Feel pretty good about it. Obviously, you guys can kind of play around with it and let me know if you guys would do anything different. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.